Hey, it's another What Matters in Innovation. I'm Scott Kirsner from Innovation Leader. Joining me today are Patti Mikula from Hackworks and Alex Slawsby from Derisk. We want to focus in on one really interesting sector where there has been a lot of news in July of 2021, and that is electric vehicles. I don't know if you were watching, as I was, the Blue Origin launch with Jeff Bezos and his brother and Wally Funk and the 18-year-old. I don't really know who he was. But if you noticed, they took the crew to the launch pad in a Rivian electric SUV. So that was one little electric vehicle cameo as part of the Blue Origin launch. Rivian also told customers that they're not actually going to start delivering their trucks and SUVs in the July timeframe, but instead September. There's been a lot of news around Lordstown Motors, this U.S. based startup that went public last year to also focus on electric trucks. Nobody knows what is going on with that company, if they're going to be able to deliver electric vehicles. But Alex, let me toss it to you first. I know you've been watching this space. I know as a car purchaser, you made a car purchase in the last couple months, and I don't think it was an electric vehicle. What do you see that's interesting in this space right now?
Yeah, so we needed a little bit of a larger SUV, and there really weren't a lot of great EV options, and certainly EV only options. And if there were, I know they'd be really expensive, significantly more than we had to pay. And I think that's a big issue. But, the Ford F-150 came out, the Lightning, their new EV, and it looks like a kind of a cool upgraded Lightning. And so back to this idea of not only, the expense and sort of how you bring it down to a level of sort of good affordability, but what it looks and feels like. Honestly, I wouldn't be caught dead in a Cybertruck. Like, it's kind of cool, but not for me. So I think that's another piece too. The price, and then finally what it says about me. And I just don't want to be in something that looks like it was created by aliens.
Patty, what are you seeing? So you're up in Toronto. Are you an EV owner yet? Do you know EV owners there?
I'm not an EV owner, although my son has it on his dream car list, and I do know a bunch of EV owners, and I'm always sort of really thinking about what is the ecosystem around electric vehicles, and what does it have to be like to have that tipping point where it can become someone's everyday buy, that you don't have to think about buying it, and then how are you going to charge it along the way. I'm also really interested in hearing, how I was just reading an article the other day about someone who wanted to get an electric vehicle, but his condo wouldn't allow him to put in a charging port. So, when you think about, a good portion of the population is either a renter or lives in condos. So what does that look like for the ecosystem?
It's such an interesting domain for innovation, right? Because you not only have to create the product, but you do have to create that network of chargers. I feel like that's been a real focus of Tesla's for the last 5, 6, 7 years, right? Building this network of, they now say 25,000 chargers. I mean, so to me, Tesla chargers now have this visibility where you go to a shopping mall or you go to a Turnpike rest stop here in the US and you see the row of Teslas charging up. I don't yet see fast chargers as a Tesla owner. I don't yet see fast chargers where I go for other types of vehicles. And so I just wonder about like the optics of that. When does it feel safe to buy a non-Tesla branded EV if you're not sure where are the fast charging stations, and maybe you can't install one in your condo or your apartment garage?
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is, the analogy is back in the day of the iPhone and the App Store, like they went hand in hand, and people bought the iPhone because they knew that they could buy the apps for it. And I think that's what we're seeing here too. I know that here I'm in Toronto, which is in Ontario, and there was a big push a little while ago to put lots of charging stations in public spaces. But then with a change of government and a change of philosophy and ideology, they ripped them out. So, that really, I think, set back adoption here in our neighborhood. But then again, I just pulled into a parking lot next to my office for the first time in a long time, and they have converted the entire first floor of parking into electric vehicle charging spaces. I think that where there's a gap maybe in public options, the private sector is definitely coming in and filling that gap.
And I think that's a great analogy around the iPhone and the App Store. I've always thought it's fascinating how Tesla owners get new functionality like on a regular basis as updates are downloaded. And I think the new Plaid model, and again, I love all the Spaceball references. I think the new Plaid model has pretty high-end gaming capabilities. You can play video games on it. And I think this is really interesting because there's a whole software services piece here to what traditionally would be considered a car company. And I think a Wedbush analyst recently came out and said, hey, GM should trade more like a disruptive technology play going forward with all of its focus on EVs. And I think that's fascinating because in the end, the investors price into stocks like their expectations. It's one thing if they think you're just a car company. It's another thing if they think you're going to be a software company or a digital company. And I think that bodes well for GM and others who are saying this is going to be a big part of what we're going to do. They're going to, the concept of automakers is going to change a lot, and it's going to be fascinating to watch.
We use the Apple example. Tesla obviously has been way out in front of the others of creating an ecosystem that makes it safe to buy electric vehicles. Patti, I still find it funny, just as maybe a last thing to touch on, how many big companies use the word ecosystem, but they're not really investing in any committed way to really create it. They're just like, oh, we would like it if we were part of an ecosystem and lots of startups and, third parties and design. Do you know what I mean? Like they're using the language, but they're not following through on like, hey, this stuff costs money. This stuff takes commitment to actually create.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it'll be interesting to see, of these big car makers who are making those big hires that have come from companies that have done ecosystem right. Are they making the hires from Apple? Are they making the hires from, like even, like an Uber where they've kind of gotten that network of restaurant driver and consumer network done right. So, I think that'll be an interesting to see as a predictor of success is where are they getting their talent from?
Just so many interesting dynamics like that we're going to watch playing out over the next couple of years. Patti, Alex, I want to thank you for your time. Before we wrap, I want to mention we just published some data about the top 10 car makers around the world by market share and how committed they are to EV innovation. So you can check that out on the link below or at innovationleader.com. Thanks for watching. And thanks again, Alex. Thanks, Patti.